All right, Lightning Leaders, welcome back to another math video. Here we go. Last time we talked about converting mixed numbers to improper fractions and converting improper fractions to mixed numbers. This time we're going to be talking about subtracting fractions greater than 1. Now, way back, I can't believe this was already 2 months ago, right before we left the school building, we were talking about adding and subtracting fractions. Now, as we've progressed through Zern and we're making our way through the module, we've hit a point now where we're talking about some more complicated subtraction questions. And this was another thing that Zern was telling me that was taking a few attempts for us to get through. So I wanted to make this video so that you had another voice, another explanation. Maybe this voice and this explanation makes it make more sense than the Zern video. So with that said, here we go. We're going to start with, believe it or not, one of the easier number sentences to do. And that's going to be 4 1/5 minus 3/5. Now, I started with this one because it's kind of in the middle between super hard and super easy. Because we could have done, 4 4/5 minus 3/5. And that would have been super easy because all we had to do was 4/5 minus 3/5. But this way, it's a little trickier because we don't have enough fifths to take away. So your brain should start making connections already. There's something you know how to do in subtraction when you get to a point where you don't have enough things to take. We've got to do some borrowing, and we've got to do some unbundling. But Mr. S, where do we get this from? Great question. There's a couple things we can do here. And we're going to start with what I think is a nicer way of doing this. So with that said, let's take apart this 3/5. Because we can take 1/5 out of here, right? Because 3/5 is 2/5 plus 1/5. We know that. Now, since we have our 1/5 here, and we have our 1/5 here. Watch this. Boom, gone. Boom, gone. So now our number sentence is 4 minus 2/5. Okay. Well, now we need to write that 4 in a way where we can take 2/5 from it. And we want to leave our answer as a mixed number. So we're going to try to make this as small as possible. I know that 2/5 is less than 1 whole. We just know that because the top number is bigger. So what I can do is I can take 1 whole out of that 4. I can take 1 whole out of the 4, leaving me with 3. But instead of writing a 1 here, I'm going to write that 1 whole as a fraction. Since my unit is 5, that means my 1 whole is 5/5. Now I can subtract. My whole number gets carried across. 5 minus 2 is 3. So there is my answer. 4 1/5 minus 3/5 equals 3 3/5. I want to talk about another way that we could have solved this. Another thing that we could have done is we could have taken this 5/5. We could have borrowed, right? We could have borrowed and taken those 5/5 and added it to our 1/5. So we had something like this, and we would have gotten the same answer. You also could have converted this whole mixed number into an improper fraction. That would have been 21/5. 21 minus 3 would have given you 18/5. Then you would have had to convert it back, which is a lot of work. And that's probably one way we want to avoid doing this kind of work. I wanted to avoid using the number line because the number line is tricky enough in itself, because if we set the number line up wrong, we're not even going to be able to do the math right. So we're just going to try to avoid the number line in this point. Let's do another question because I know that was a lot. This is a super confusing topic, so I want to do a few to make sure that we are really, really understanding what's going on here. Let's do 2 2/12 minus 7/12. Okay. Right away, we know we don't have enough, because I only have 2/12 here, but I need to take away 7. So we need to get some more 12ths from the 2. Because we know that this 2 can be rewritten in 12ths, but we gotta figure that out. We gotta pull that number out. So what we're gonna do is we're going to do like we did last time. I know that there's 2/12 hiding in here. 7 minus 2 is 5. So now I can get rid of my 2/12 and see what I'm left with. 2 minus 5/12. Okay. Now I need to figure out how many 12ths are in one whole number. Well, if 12 is my unit, it's going to take 12 pieces to get up to one complete thing. So I can rewrite this 2 as 1 and 12/12. Then subtract my 5. And there's our answer. The 1 comes across because there's no whole number here to subtract, and we subtract our fractions. I'm going to do one more because I know this is still super confusing. I'm going to try one more example here. Let's see, 3 7/10 minus 9/10. And I'm looking at these questions here to see if there's a nicer way to do this. And it really doesn't look like there is, without it sounding super, super confusing. So let's give this one more go. Let's stick with this one. I think this one is the nicest one. The other ones are just... The other strategies and methods are really, really confusing. And they involve number lines, and it's just... That's just a lot. So let's see here. Using the strategy we've been talking about, I can find 7/10 in here. 9 minus 7 is 2. So I can now take away my 7/10, and I now have 3 minus 2/10. But I need some tenths over here, so I need to take out one whole, which is 10/10 because my unit is tenths. Subtract the 2 that I've been carrying over. And now my answer is 2 8/10. I think this is going to be our go-to strategy here. It's believe it or not, it's the least complicated out of all of the strategies we could have been using. And I think this is the most straightforward strategy. And this is really the mental math strategy. Once you have this down, this is the strategy you use in your head. You take away you try to remove as many pieces as possible, so you only have a little bit left. Because this is what you can do in your head. You can go, okay, I have 7/10 here, 9/10 over here, so if I take those 7/10 away, I'm left with a 3 2/10. So then I just have to take the 2/10 out of the 3. That's the mental math process, and this is it written down on paper. So when it says explain your work, this is what it's looking for right here. This is the mental math process right here. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to, believe it or not, we can actually make this harder. Because that is actually what the next lesson is. And this time, instead of doing a mixed number minus a fraction, we're going to do a mixed number minus a mixed number. I know, crazy. So let's take a look at an example question here. I have 11 and 1/5 minus, oh, or not, minus, that's not a big enough 2 and 3/5. So now I have 11 and 1/5 minus 2 and 3/5. My first step is going to be to subtract the whole numbers. Remember what I just said with the other number sentences. We want to try to get as little numbers on here as possible so it's a lot less to look at and it's less confusing. So let's start with just subtracting our whole numbers. If I do 11 minus 2, 11 minus 2 is 9. Now we didn't do anything to the 1/5. We just did 11, I'm going to circle that in a different color. We just did 11 minus 2. That's all we did, 11 minus 2. So this 1/5 has to come along still, because it's still there. But since that 2 is now gone, we just have 3/5 now. And now this is looking like what we just did. Now we have a question like we just did. So what I can do is I can say, okay, I know I can find 1/5 in here. 3 minus 1 is 2. And I need some more fifths because I need to do 9 minus 2/5. So if I pull out one whole, that's going to be 8 and 5/5 minus 2/5. 5 minus 2 is not 2. I don't know why I wrote 2/3 there. 3/5. So now I know that 11 and 1/5 minus 2 and 3/5 equals 8 and 3/5. Let's see if there's another one we could do here. Another example problem. No, we're not doing a number line. No, we're not counting on. Yeah, I think this is the nicest way to do it again. Let's do another example problem here. Get my markers out of the way. Here we go. Ooh, let's try this one. 7 and 5/12 minus 3 and 9/12. Okay. Thinking back to our steps, there's a process here. I want to get rid of as many numbers as I can so that there's less for my brain to look at, there's less to think about, and it's easier to do the math. Let's start with the whole numbers, because whole numbers are super easy. We've been adding and subtracting whole numbers since kindergarten, first grade. 7 minus 3. I can do that real easy, real simple. 7 minus 3 is 4. Didn't do anything to that 5/12, so it's going to stay. We're still subtracting. Now we took the 3 out of the 7, so we only have 9/12 left here. Ooh, all right. We got rid of one of our numbers. Let's get rid of another one. Make this a little easier on ourselves. I think I can find 5/12 in here. 9 minus 5 is 4. Now I can get rid of my 5/12. So we got rid of our 3. We've now gotten rid of our 5/12. We now have 4 minus 4/12. And I ran out of space, so I'm going to come over here. That 4/12 can, that's a really long number bond line. I don't need it to be that long. That 4/12 can be rewritten as 3 and 12/12 because this, we know, is one complete thing. So this is still 4. But now that I have enough 12ths, I can do my subtraction. The 3 comes along, and 12 minus 4 is 8. So now I know that 7 5/12 minus 3 9/12 equals 3 and 8/12. This is a tricky skill. This is a tricky process. And it's one of those things where you're just going to have to practice it and practice it. Rewatch this video, rewatch the Zern video until you get it. This is just one of those things where you just have to keep practicing it. If you're really struggling with where all of these numbers are coming from, it might be because you're not ready for this yet. You need to back up and make sure that you really understand what a fraction is, what the pieces are, because you really need that understanding to again, understand how we were able to manipulate all these numbers and get these answers. So if you're still struggling, back up to the previous lessons on Zern, back up to the previous stuff on IXL, and really solidify your thinking and your understanding before you jump ahead in this. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it cleared up some of the skills, some of the issues you were having in Zern. If you're still struggling, I am here. Miss Lauk is here. We are more than happy to Zoom with you and figure this out with you. We are here for you. We are still learning. We're still doing school. So I hope that this video helps you in some way. I'll see you guys next time.